It is unfortunately week 18 of the NFL season, the last regular season week of the year, and I have my 3 favorite player props for you guys to lock in for Sunday's slate. It's always sad when the NFL season comes to an end, so let's hope we can end the season with a 3-and-3 day, cashing the 3 bangers that I have for you for Sunday's slate. Before I can give you those picks, I do need to do a recap of how things have gone so far on the year. We are up 13.24 units on these pumped up NFL player props with an ROI of about 6.5%. Now, we were on fire to start with these NFL player props, and we are recently in the middle of a cold streak. So hopefully we can come out of our cold streak to end the year. As I mentioned, I got 3 player props for you guys. If you're not already, would appreciate it if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. And let's get into it. So the first play that we're going to go ahead and talk about is in the Sunday night football game between the Bills versus Dolphins. And we're taking Devonta Aan anytime touchdown plus 100 odds at DraftKings. So to start things off, Raheem Mostert missed last game. He is currently listed as questionable for this one. My guess is he ends up playing. Even if he does end up playing, I'm not scared off. I would still like this play on Achane to score. In games that Achane actually plays, meaning he's healthy enough to suit up and he actually plays a normal allotment of snaps, he's basically lived in the end zone. He scored last week despite the blowout. Granted, it was at the end of the game when it was very much a blowout, but still a game in which he scored. Overall, if you isolate the data using games in which Achane has played 10 or more snaps, he scored a touchdown in 5 of 7 games. Shout out props.cash for that type of information. Now, the Bills defense started off hot. Then they had a bunch of injuries. They had a cold stretch in the middle of the season. They're starting to play better now, but you can still run on them. You can still run on the Bills. Overall, DVOA lists the Bills as the 12th ranked defense in the NFL, but they're 9th in passing and 18th in rushing. So they're a little bit worse on the ground than they are through the air. And again, whether Mostert plays or not, I would like this play for Achane to score. Last week was the only game that Mostert missed that Devon Achane ended up playing, which means that Devon Achane has scored a touchdown in 4 of the 6 games that he has played with Mostert. Achane finally seems to be healthy from the knee injury that cost him earlier in the season and then the toe injury that cost him recently. He played half the snaps last week. He's never going to be the type of guy, the Derrick Henry, that leads the team in snaps with 95% of the snaps. If Mostert comes back, I still expect Achane to get roughly half the snaps, and he's so explosive and so sneaky in the red zone that I think he could score easily with half the snaps, hopefully coming through and cashing our first play. Next up, Seahawks versus Cardinals game. Kenneth Walker anytime touchdown, plus 103 odds at ESPN Bet. We're getting a really good price here to start off on ESPN Bet. They're the only book that is offering this for plus money. Every other book is in the minus money, with some books even pretty decently in the minus money. So I like this one from a value perspective. I also like from the game itself, the Seahawks have hopes of making the playoffs. If they win and the Packers lose, the Seahawks are in the playoffs. And that is very much in the realm of possibilities. The Packers play the Bears, who have been playing well recently, and the Bears would love to kick the Packers out of the playoffs. So what that means is that the Seahawks very much want to win this game. They're going to play their guys, and I think that means they're going to ride the hell out of Kenneth Walker. He scored a touchdown in 7 of 14 games this year. Now, he scored in 4 of the first 5. Then he had a cold streak in the middle of the season when he was battling some injuries. But he seems to be healthy now for the stretch run of the NFL season. He scored a touchdown in 2 of the last 3 games, and and in 3 of the last 6. And physically, he looks much better now than he did when he was injured in the middle of the year. He looks very explosive. He looks phenomenal. And the matchup against the Cardinals is about as juicy as it gets. According to DVOA, the Cardinals have the worst overall defense in the NFL, literally the 32nd ranked defense in the NFL. And on the year, they're allowing the most rushing yards per game in the NFL as well. Their run defense is terrible, and I see the Seahawks leaning on the ground game a ton, especially when they get close to the end zone. Kenneth Walker by far leads the Seahawks in red zone carries. He's got 38 carries inside the 20. He has scored 7 times on those. If you isolate it inside the 10-yard line, he has 19 carries for 6 touchdowns. The backup running back for Seattle, Zach Charbonnet, he only has 1 touchdown inside the 10. And then if you go even closer Inside the 5-yard line, Kenneth Walker has 15 carries for 5 touchdowns. Charbonnet only has 6 carries and the 1 touchdown. So I think when they get close, they're going to lean on Walker. These two teams, did play earlier this year. Walker didn't score, but he did run for over 100 yards. So he had a good game, just didn't get into the end zone. I think that changes in this game. Hopefully he does. He can get into the end zone, cashing our second play. And last up, third and final pick of the slate, Bucks versus Panthers game. I'm taking Rashad White, anytime touchdown, -105 odds at FanDuel. So it's our last pick for the slate, last pick for the regular season. And honestly, this is probably my favorite play as well. If you only want to choose one of the 3 plays, I would recommend this one. I think getting Rashad White to score at -105 odds is an absolute gift. For starters, it is a very good price on FanDuel compared to every other book. For example, Caesars has this at -150. DraftKings has this at -135. ESPN Bet has this at -134. The closest book to FanDuel is Fliff, who prices this at -115. And Fliff is probably the squarest book out there, so that doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't scare me off at all. Now, looking at the play, looking at the matchup, White only scored a touchdown once in the Bucks' first 7 games. So 1 touchdown in the first 7 games. Since then, Rashad White has scored in 7 of 9 games. Now, one of the games he missed was last week, which was a pretty gross game for the Bucks offense against the Saints. But prior to that, the Bucks offense had been playing really well. And the matchup against the Panthers is much, much easier than the matchup against the Saints. So that doesn't scare me off as well. So the Cardinals might average the most rushing yards against per game in the NFL. But according to DVOA, the Panthers actually have the worst rush defense in the NFL. So DVOA lists the Cardinals as the second worst and the Panthers as the worst rush defense specifically. And looking at, again, the Panthers, because they stink and they're losing basically every game, the Panthers have allowed the most rushing touchdowns in the NFL. The first time these two teams played this year, Rashad White scored. I expect that to happen once again in this one, in a game that I do think the Bucks are able to dominate with relative ease. And that's all we got. 3 anytime touchdowns, 3 tater time plays for you guys to lock in. Let's end the season hot. If you're riding with me, make sure to comment and let me know. Other than that, like, subscribe, all that good stuff helps me out a ton. Appreciate everybody watching, and have a good one.